Hello there. I am so glad you're here tonight. We have had the best and most fun week. And I have been, I've had two little boys who are so excited because they got a new brother, right? So we have been trying to be entertained, trying to make sure that everything happens that's supposed to happen with them, with me. Um, have other grandchildren that were doing activities, so we went to all their stuff. And the best part is that we played hotel roulette because I was I wasn't going to do housekeeping too. I'm such a terrible bebop. But no, seriously, Brittany is fantastic. Erin is taking care of her. Brodie Lee is our newest addition, and he is fantastic too. We went over to go see them this morning, played with the other boys because they went home with mom and dad because you can't keep them away from that little brother. And it's so fun because it's been a long time since I got to do that. My running buddy moved to Charleston and had the audacity to get engaged and married. So I don't have anybody to run from hotel to hotel with anymore until this weekend. So I'm just going to say that I love being a bebop. It's so much fun. And I love coming home to my dogs too. So all my kids know that's true, okay? Because it is what it is. But I know that some people had asked me how Brittany was, and they're fine. They are all fine. We found a new sushi place because who knew that all of my grandchildren like sushi? So we went and got bento boxes and hung out and were goofy, and then went and watched stupid stuff. They thought I liked it. And so now I'm going to vacay at home this week. And because the boys go back to school, so I won't have anybody to play with. And Brittany is getting accustomed to the flow with Brodie. And I will go so she can nap some because I like that. And so if I look like I could be investigated in the paranormal this week, there's a reason for that. But I just decided because I didn't schedule anyone for this week because we were supposed to be in the hospital today. And we were going to be doing just a rebroadcast. And I figured maybe you were tired of rebroadcasts, right? Because I've had to use a lot of them in the last couple of weeks, and I'm going to need some again. So I'm going to make some. Seriously, though, y'all always hear me talk about the places that I go, the things I investigate, and such as that. I've actually been on teams. I really have. And I enjoy that. I am more of I don't think I'm a psychic. I'm intuitive. Sometimes it kicks over into psychic abilities depending on what's going on around me. I would probably be sleeping through a manifestation in my living room right now, but normally I'm very in tune. And I love investigating, but I have started not working with teams so much. I go and do my own investigations, and I have recently been to an investigation. I took my friend Carla Lee with me. For those of y'all that know the infamous Frank Lee, who is a fantastic investigator, but doesn't really anymore as far as with clients. He is living life and doing other things, but he's a great investigator, great researcher. And so Carla is his bride, and we get along like two runaway thieves. So when I had a request to go do an investigation from Jeremy York, I said, well, sure, I'll go do that. And so Carla went with me, and it was such a great time. It was our first time working together. She's pretty much full blown psychic. And sometimes I am. But when we were on the way to the house, she said, well, there's a man there named David, and he was talking to me last night. I was like, okay, because I don't get information going in. I don't want to be pre-programmed or whatever. So we got to the house and we're walking around downstairs, and it was the most, oh my gosh, they're renovating. It's going to be the most beautiful house. It's made as a big C, basically. Well, if you count one, it could be an E, but it's beautiful. It's huge. It's very rural. And the people were having some issues with things happening in the house. And I will say, it's not demonic. It's nothing of that nature. But it was interesting because we're sitting there, we've got equipment running. We're sitting for an EVP session. And these wasps that were in the house were on the windows, and they were just dropping dead. Never seen that before. So that was my introduction to this house. And Carla was just kind of like, that's a little weird. So, yeah, it is. So, but I'm absolutely certain. But the individual who was fixing this place up for a family member knew who David was. So that was interesting. And I love when stuff like that happens. But in this instance, the owner or the owner's daughter was a paranormal investigator, and a really good one too. But she wanted somebody outside of the family to come in, I guess, validate what they had going on. So we did that. And it was interesting, and it was a lot of fun. But so we're working on our reports. I decided that I wanted to add a little bit more to mine. So we haven't gone back for our review yet, but we are. And I'm so glad I had the opportunity to meet this person, because she is a Alabama, in my general area, paranormal investigator, and she has a team. And maybe I can go and do some investigation there, because I like helping people in their homes. I do not like working with people who have kind of, a little bit of attitude about what's there that might be less than forthcoming, or looking for the negative. I'm real funny about who I investigate with, and I don't think this team or those people, I think this would be a good fit. So we'll find out. But you always hear me talk about the places I go, the things that I see or experience. You heard me with Mikey recently talking about investigations. You hear me all the time with Lori talking about things that we do. And, I get them to bring their own evidence. And I decided, because this was kind of spur of the moment to be doing this show tonight, I thought maybe you'd like to see some of the stuff that you've heard me talk about. Because when I'm a guest on somebody else's show, I talk about experiences I've had, things that I've picked up. I did not go through all of my Scotland evidence to put in here, because I was running out of time, because I've been playing with the baby. But it is interesting to me, because I've got stuff from Sloss, I've got stuff from residentials, and I get tickled a lot of times when I do residential investigations, because it's almost like the spirits are surprised that you're there. They're used to the residents. If they're not a negative entity, come across a couple of those. I'm not real keen on that. I don't like doing that, because I feel like I'm opening myself up to something. And if I walk into a house and somebody hasn't been honest about what they're experiencing, then that's a pretty big trigger for me. I would like to know what I'm walking into. If you feel like you have a negative entity, then you need to let your investigator know that, so that they can be prepared, or, they might need to do some sort of protection different from what they would do if they weren't anticipating that. And I usually try to get myself protected and centered for whatever I could run into, not just what somebody tells me is there. But if somebody says, well, I think there's something negative that could be going on, let me know. Yeah, I appreciate that. Any investigator appreciates that. But I think that one of the things that makes me enjoy this stuff so much is I get to help people that are maybe afraid in their own home. That's why residentials matter to me. And I haven't been afraid. I've been uncomfortable in my own home when there was something moving and shaking or whatever that I didn't anticipate. I had no idea what was happening. And that was when I was younger. Now I kind of just approach everything with a grain of salt. And I've walked into homes that definitely were negatively involved, and that tripped me out. And then I've walked into a place that the people were absolutely terrified. The woman had had a stroke, and the stroke created an odd physical manifestation in that she had an accent. She wasn't from another nationality. She's American and Southern as I am, but she had a different nation's accent. That was interesting. I did not know that was a thing. So I went and found my dad and asked about that. And he said, it's very unusual, but that does happen. And it's really cool when it does, because usually it's someplace they haven't been. And I think that this lady was concerned that maybe something inhuman was affecting her as a result of the stroke. And that's why she sounded like that, which is why I went to my dad, who was the director of a hospital and a PhD doctor, not a medical doctor, but had a lot of knowledge. So I went to my resource, I got the information, and I was able to tell her that this is a real thing. She was already under treatment, but I think that I got the strangest hair. Y'all are just going to have to live with me tonight, okay? But it's so interesting. I didn't even know that was a thing. And she thought that she was being possessed. She wasn't. She was charming. She was lovely. It is a real physical manifestation in the human brain. So I brought some audio files. I also brought the ones from Sloss that you're probably so tired of me talking about. But I brought it so that you could hear it. I got no glasses. I was late getting in here because life. So we're going to go to my videos. Maybe. Carl, what I'm looking for is the Jan. That's background. Where's that? There they are. That's Mikey. And of course, Mikey's files are still in here. We could always go look at those because, oh my God, y'all know how good they are. It's going to be the audio clips. There they go, sounds. And this is something that don't tell me I don't have that up there. I have set y'all up and I don't have that file up there. However, we're going to just look and see if we can't find that. But anyway, talk amongst yourselves. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But I think it's interesting because I don't understand how things like that can happen, how your brain can actually do this shift, and all of a sudden you're just all over the place. You know, it's something that If I had that happen, I would be really been out of shape because I wouldn't know what to do with that. And now I cannot find that file, Carl. So, oh, no.
What file are you looking for?
It is the one about Jan.
Is it an audio file?
It is. It's a video file. Duh.
Video.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know. And I did put it up there. That's the video that I brought. My
Is that
goodness.
the
I told y'all I
one?
was tired.
Is that the one that's called Is That Easier?
Yes.
That's in your
Here we go. Guys, I'm so sorry. Like I said, I'm tired. Carl, will it still play?
Yeah, let me see if it'll work here. Okay.
Alrighty. Thank you for saving me from myself.
Let's see.
81 round less this spot.
81. And then drop to what?
To 77.
Just said Jan.
Hmm?
It just said Jan. It's FM. Is that easier for you? Sometimes. Is that easier for you? Sometimes. So that in that particular instance, I had she was scared. She was very frightened, and somebody had found an old Cherokee Indian doll that you buy in the gift shops up in Cherokee, North Carolina, and brought it into the house. And the person that had that thought that it was creating the environment and told the lady that. And so it was really a very frightening thing for this woman. And when she heard she heard it say, it knew her and it wasn't having animosity toward her. It was really very sweet to her. And some of the other stuff was very private. So that's why I'm not going to play the rest of it. But, it was so interesting because in that particular case, there was actually a person who was in the room. She had a mirrored wall, and the wall, you could see a shadow reflecting with us in, and it wasn't any of our shadows. So I thought that was interesting too. It wasn't trying to do anything negative to her. It had very much care and concern for her. So, which I guess you could tell maybe by the tone of voice, but it wasn't doing anything other than haunting. And she was because she thought that it was because of her damage also. And she was just the most wonderful customer, client, whatever you want to call it, wound up being a friend. And I just think that a lot of times people, and I've seen this and I've worked with teams that did this, which is why I'm not on teams anymore. People get so excited and riled up and they're gung ho to put what they want it to be into their investigation, or what they anticipate it to be into their investigation. And I have seen people who seemed to forget that while you're on a investigation site, then when you leave, you get to go home. And the people that asked for you to come help them do not get to go home. They have to live in the environment. And if you go in there being all blustery and ugly and aggressive with a spirit, then you get to go home after you piss it off. But the homeowner still has to cope with that. And I think that what started out as a benign haunting can evolve pretty quick if you're not doing your job right. So there's that. So, I've been very fortunate. I've gotten to investigate in so many places and go, to all kinds of public places. The interesting part to me about doing investigation is that I really like residential work. I think that it's important. I think that if I have gifts, then that's where I should be using them, or for people that need help. I've never charged anybody or accepted anything that they offered to do a residential investigation, and I won't. If I've been someplace that I thought was going to be an easy peasy investigation that wound up being a mental health issue, and the mental health issue was and the behaviors also were creating the environment, because when we walked in, the person said, well, I'm a graveyard walking, graveyard stomping, aggressive wanderer, and was really proud of it. And that's fine. I mean, because I like going into graveyards sometimes, and I've investigated in graveyards on occasion. I don't go into ones that are closed. I don't go into ones that are ancient, really. If there are cemeteries around here that have been vandalized horribly, I don't go in those, because those are not going to be happy spirits. And I've investigated cemeteries in Scotland, more than one. I've investigated I haven't investigated the battlefields. I have investigated in battlefields. Wasn't even really investigating. I was just kind of filming around me when I was in Gettysburg for my first time. And that was the place that I saw what I thought were rabbits that were not, and what I thought were trees that were not. And I will always appreciate so much the people who took me under their arm to go with them and just kind of hang out around Sachs Bridge, because that's a very active area. In fact, the last time I was in Gettysburg, I was just kind of hanging around there, and there were boot steps coming up. I had just kind of gotten off the main path and was just kind of, chilling. And there were boots coming up from the creek. I was so surprised, because nobody came up from the creek, just the boots. But, when I saw what I thought were the rabbits there, they were basically, lookouts. What do you call those, Carl, when somebody is kind of sneaking up through the grass to spy on what the other people are doing? They're lookouts, right? Or scouts. And I was just kind of so surprised. I was not nearly as surprised as I was when I saw the circle of trees over there and went to talk to somebody. And then when I turned back around, there were no trees. That got me. I was so very surprised. But I shouldn't have been, because my very first experience with Gettysburg was driving in, and thought there were reenactors. Looked away, looked down. There were no people there. So there's that. That was so cool. What a way for Gettysburg to welcome you, right? I liked it. But then, we've just had so many cool experiences. Culloden, if you're listening for the first time, I actually got injured psychically, I guess. On Rick McCollum calls it, I got shot. So, because that's what I told him. I was walking through Culloden and just talking to him, walking down the actual path. We weren't off the path. We were following all the rules, and I got shot in the stomach. And I was just like, what just happened? And it was a psychic injury. Not something you ever want to sign up for. Not going to lie. It was not fun, and it still hurts sometimes. And that's been 2 years since I was at Culloden, almost. The summer will be 2 years, year and a half now. But, I didn't think that was a thing. I would never heard of it happening, like on television and stuff. I did not think that was a real thing. And it was the second time I got hurt on that trip in a psychic manner. I'm not a psychic medium. I'm an intuitive. That's what I always call myself. I'm definitely not choosing to be a medium. They can make me hear things or know things if they want to. I don't ask them to. But it's really so trippy to know that these things actually can happen. So I steer a little clear of battlefields now. But the other injury that I had in Scotland was in the Writers' Museum when I got whacked in the back of the head. I'd been in one room. There's a little circular area, and then there's other rooms off of it. So I was going into the other room where everybody was because our guide was talking to us. And while I was standing in there, whack on the back of the head, felt for blood. No blood, thank God. But yeah. So that was my learning experience that year in Scotland. So we don't really want to do that again. But it was definitely an interesting moment. And that was something that I was concerned about perhaps bringing home with me, this experience, because when I go into people's homes, I don't want to be second guessing myself and maybe shutting down a little bit because I don't want to have this happen. Because, I thought I was shielded, and apparently shields were not really that strong in this environment. So it was fun. Said no one ever. But the Culloden thing, I actually had to leave the battlefield. And our driver took us down, a little bit of ways, and we caught our breath and came back. So thanks to Rick McCollum for getting me out of there. But I think that one of my favorite places to go is Gettysburg. And I missed the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash because we had a family member sick, and I had to cancel this year. I hope I go next year. But I just can't imagine, having lived through what happened from street to street, from door to door through Gettysburg. It wasn't just on the battlefields that people were dying, people were being shot. We all know about the Jenny Wade house. We all know about everything else through there. Every bit of Gettysburg and the surrounding area was a battlefield. So if you haven't been there, the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash would be a great time to go. I'm just saying. Because the organizers, of course, are busier than one-armed paper hangers. But the rank and file of the talent and the attendees know the history of Gettysburg. and you can talk to anybody. In fact, that's where I finally got to meet Rosemary Ellen Guffey, who was actually Phyllis's best friend who owns Fate magazine. So it was such a treasure. Just having her around was huge. She was a treasure. She was also a pleasure to be around. So that was fun. And I think that we don't really treasure our histories here like they do there in Scotland. You know, I've been Confederate battlefields. I've been in Wars of Independence battlefields. I have experienced a lot of different things. There's a place called Stones River Battlefield that is near Nashville, and I like to go there too. I don't go to Chickamauga because I just haven't. I know that there's an awful lot of activity there. I can't tell you how many people have told me that they have seen soldiers marching through Chickamauga. They cross the highway that you have to go through it on. A lot of people live around Chickamauga Battlefield. And the former manager or whatever before Ronnie got Old South Pittsburgh, and yes, she did let it get to where you would be sick, probably investigating. I was there the night before it closed. Could not believe there was an event there with it in that shape. And I was so glad that it didn't go at auction the way it was supposed to go. And Ronnie actually got it. Ronnie Dees, you're a hero. I hope you feel better. I know that you weren't. And just, you know, I think that he's a hero. And he also has another hospital in Tennessee. I'm going to get the name wrong. I think it's Harrelson. If I'm wrong, don't shoot me. But Harriman Hospital in Harriman, Tennessee. So go there too, because he does good work with his facilities. I have never met a property owner except for Shelley Robertson who took something that was so unloved and uncared for and brought it back to better than it was. I think that Shelley has taken the old Paulding jail to being better than it was too. And I know Ronnie has, because I have worked volunteering in that hospital before he got it and after he got it. So there's that. And I actually, darn it, I should have put that in there. I got an EVP when I was up doing the first work day I went to there. And there was I was just working in the bathroom. We were coming out of the chapel area. If you haven't been to Old South Pittsburgh, why not go? It is so amazing. But I didn't even know this, but I was walking out and talking to some of the girls, and my report, because I always have a recorder running, which is why I have so much to go through. But a man says, "Well, that's all right." I'm like, well, good. I'm glad you like it. So anyway, that's one of the things that I love at Pittsburgh Hospital. And I know you've heard me and Lori talk about it, but if you are new here, Lori and I were there one night, and it was just she and I. We were in the hospital, and I'm always fooling with my equipment. I always have to fool with my equipment. Something's always gone awry. I'm doing it, and Lori is dead still. And finally, her stillness got me. And I was just like, oh, wow. Okay, what's happening? And there's a little punch ball blowing all, the fan was over here. The punch ball is back here by the window, which is closed. We went and checked everything there. That punch ball is going to the fan, right? Staying against the fan. Well, those dogs won't be back in here tonight. And just went shooting down between us. She was on a love seat. I was in a love seat. There's a table between us, and it just shot down through there. I was busy with a voice recorder. I couldn't get something to work. And so that's why she was still, because she was waiting on me to see it. So, go to Old South Pittsburgh. It's so cool. And, you know, we got to go to Winchester House a couple of years ago, and Mikey was there too. That was so fun. There were a bunch of people there. And David, hi, not my David, but a David out in California who came with us. That place was so swinging. And Patty Negri was there. She was doing a seance. And I've got to tell you, I think Patty Negri is one of the nicest women in the paranormal field. She is vivacious and fun and kind, and just kind of calls it as she sees it. And there were so many people there who were completely fed by her. My mom came through. Don't think anybody knew it was my mom except Lori, maybe Rick, but it was the coolest thing for me. And I was just like, thanks, but it was a big crowd of people, so I couldn't really acknowledge too much. I did say, yeah, that's mine, but it was awesome. But the Winchester House was freaky to try to investigate because it was pretty much haunted. I feel like everywhere there was a lot of energy there because Sarah Winchester was a very strong woman, but she also, her staff loved her because she was such a good woman. And I did not put that picture in here, but I'm sure if you haven't seen it, you will, because I'll put it up on my Facebook. But I was walking through and I had written an article for Fate about the Winchester House. And when I was going through my photos, I found one, and it was of a shadow man, the gardener, bending over the plants. And I was like, I didn't know I got that. How cool is this? So yeah, it's in the Fate magazine that has the Winchester House on it, in it. But I might have a few Fate magazines right here. Maybe I can find it. But one of the things that I thought was so cool about there was that I actually have a piece of furniture that was in that house. I thought that was neat. This was the topic of my, went in my desk, or my file cabinet. But the Flatwoods Monster was my very first episode of Fate Magazine radio. But, one of the things about being able to do what I do is that everybody knows Fate Magazine and everybody loves it. So, and of course, no glasses. But the interesting part of that is that I have gotten to talk to people who have been featured in Fate Magazine forever. Every time I go to a conference, there's someone there. I had Tony Rathman on a couple of weeks ago, and y'all know that he's in the Skinwalker one that I showed you. And it's a good article because he's a good guy and he's got great information, and I can't see Scott. But, oh man, I forgot. This one, well, there we go. These lights get it. But isn't that cool? I just love our covers. And this one actually has the Curse of Luke Castle in it too. So I'm never going to find this. These are all old. But this is the one that Tony Rathman is in. This is our newest one. And it's all dog-eared because I've been reading it. So I think that being so blessed to be representing Fate Magazine is my favorite thing that I've ever done in all of my work. because it's one of those things that everybody knows what it is just about. And if they don't know it, they've read it. If they haven't read it, they've seen it all over the place. And, it's just really one of my favorite jobs I've ever had, ever. And this would be so good if I could see. Oh, this is it. Hang on. I don't know what she was thinking, putting an article by me in the Angels magazine, right? So, I kid. We love each other. Phyllis Scaldi is one of the very first coolest women on the planet. She and Rosemary Gully were absolutely just like runaway horse thieves. Well, I'm not seeing that image. I must have put it with something else. But anyway, there's my article. Ta-da! And it doesn't have the little gardener. Which article did I put that with? However, there are some more of my pictures from the interior. And this is the edition that it's in. This is issue 740. So you can look on fakemag.com and find any of these and do a subscription. You can get anything that you want. Phyllis can get it to you. And, this is the 60-year celebration edition. And that was Shaman and ETs, The Beasts of London, Angels, and the Paranormal. A lot of angels, Then there's this one. Angels are everywhere. And that was about talking animals, too. And then dolphins. Dolphins speak and ghosts and UFOs and don't think there's not a correlation. But now I'm going to have to find that and show it to y'all. But, it's really such a cultural icon. And Phyllis has investigated everywhere. She has been to every conference just about that there is. She and David were doing this centuries ago, because we're in a new century. But, it's just really one of the coolest things ever. It really is. And I wanted to go back. Y'all have heard me talk about my adventures at Sloss Furnace, if you've listened here at all. And you always hear me talk about what the spirit said and, whatever. And I've never brought the media file here. So I am looking now. There we go, sounds. This was, I was in Sloss Furnace in the boiler room by myself. I had been down there with some friends that wanted to experience it. I walked up with them to go out. The sun was scratched on his belly. That was different and new. It happened as we were walking out the door. And so I told them I was going back down to make sure I hadn't left any equipment down there. And I was going down there to find out why in the world somebody scratched a kid. So it was interesting because I've told y'all about a lot of this. I was in the boiler room and this is what I heard.
It was doing that before I turned my phone off of airplane mode.
Did you hear the footsteps?
It was doing that before
Okay, Carl said he heard them.
off of airplane mode.
All right. So I went back down because I was already down. I went back to ask a question.
Who are the men that people see at the top of the stairs?
So just so y'all know, I wasn't making that up. That was what I heard when I played that back. I was still down there when I played that back. And so then,
How many times do you get somebody like that coming to visit you on a Saturday with ways to be able to hear you and you're not talking to her? How many times do you get somebody like that coming to visit you on a Saturday with ways to be able to hear you and you're not talking to her?
all right, Carl gave me the nod. So that's one of those random things that if I am not on a client case or if something strong doesn't happen, I may not review my evidence right off the bat. If I'm traveling, if I'm doing whatever, if I did have a client experience, then I go to that area of my time period and find it to see if I can document what they were experiencing. I will listen to it at my leisure. Like if I'm traveling, I'll listen to it on the flights or whatever. But I don't think this is Sloss. I'm going to play this because okay, I'm going to put my other earbud in if I can find it because yes, because this was a residential that I was working. Oh, I can hear everything. These, if you are someone who has a hearing problem, I don't get paid for this, but I'm going to do it anyway. If you have a hearing loss issue, hearing aids are like $4,000. If you get good ones, if you have a real need, if you need to do whatever. And so I was getting away with the little amplifier things. They weren't really helping. I have some hearing loss, which makes my investigations kind of interesting now. I have to wear my earbuds. But if you buy the Apple Pro 2 or 3, I think it started with 3, Apple Pro 3s. These suckers are $200, and they are some freaking jamming hearing aids. Plus, I get my tunes, okay? Plus, I get to hear my evidence when I'm reviewing it. But if you go into, you can set it on your phone, okay? You can do a hearing test on there. You can get the information that you need. $200 hearing aids, maybe $250. Anyway, however much they are, they're not $4 freaking grand, right? And they're every bit as good or better than like real ones. Yeah, real ones that I have tried. So that's why you see me with my earbuds all the time. But we had an interesting residential, and this one instance, y'all may have heard me talk about a client who had gotten in a bind with the team that I used to investigate with, which is great. They're really good people, but little difference in outlooks, and that's okay. We're all individuals, right? But the client had bought a child's Ouija board, okay, for whatever reason. They lived in a neighborhood. This is not rare in the South. It may not be rare up north either, but it's not rare here at all. The neighborhood had a cemetery in it. And they, as far as I know, they did not desecrate the cemetery. The stones were still there, probably. I did see some there. The trees were still there. And this man thought that it would be, loads of fun to take this Ouija board that he got at Toys R Us to the cemetery and play. Now, y'all have heard Mark Fultz on this show before talking about don't mess with something you don't know how to put away. This is what happened to this man. He had gone down there, and words matter. If you are just a paranormal enthusiast, if you're a paranormal investigator, if you have been doing this for 457 years and you still go out there and say, who's here? Or I want to talk to anybody that's here or anything that's here. If you say anything, you are shafting yourself because words matter. Invitations in the paranormal work matter. You are responsible for your safety. You're responsible for your verbiage. You are who controls your environment. And we all know this, right? So, or we should. If you are using a communication device, whether it's boards, whether it's rods, whatever you're using to communicate with spirit, you need to be very clear in what you say. Because this poor man said, is there anything here that wants to talk to me? Or, it evolved into it went home with him. Didn't want to talk to him, but it went home with him to do it. And he ultimately, his family moved out of that house. And it was such a bad thing. It was crawling on the bed. It was doing all kinds of crazy things. And it was so sad. When we went back, because we were there, told the guy, okay, let's take this back to where you picked up this entity. Let's get rid of your Ouija board, clean it, go back, put it back, and just bury it there. And we'll close this out. The idea was to bind that spirit to the board and take it back. And it was no time. That board was back in his house. And his wife and children left again. And he called us like, why did you do this? Why is this here? And so we went back. Frank Lee came with us, and he's sitting over here. Well, he's sitting here looking down a hallway where there's a mirror outside between the bedroom doors on the end of the wall. Was that for me? And am I okay? Carl's looking at me. Is there a problem? Take that out. Okay, I got a thumbs up. So when we were there, it was so bizarre because Frank is looking down the hallway. There's a mirror. I'm looking out a glass door to the front of the house. And I see him, who is not easy given. I mean, he does not pre-assume that there's something paranormal going on. You never should. But he's sitting there looking down the hall, and he's like, there's a lot of shadow movement, and it looks like there's a lot of it in that mirror. And I said, really? I said, because there's a lot happening outside the front door, too. So there's outside and inside activity happening. Well, we wound up taking the Ouija board and disposing of that safely. And then one of the members of that team was a haunted collector. So he took the mirror and bound it. And it was really, really something. And he just added it to his collection so that he could keep it sealed and it not go back and affect this family. And I swear to goodness, it was the strangest thing I've ever experienced as far as a residential case go. I am going to, I know one from this case. Let's see what. Now I can't understand it with that. Carl, could you ascertain that? Play it again. Okay, that is one of the investigators that says hang on. And that is the voice that is making the other statement. And that is the same voice that we heard through everything. And because this was a residential case, I don't usually share a lot of residential information, certainly not stuff that could be really describing where it is and such as that. But that particular case was such a weird thing. That, hey Raymond, that I just was like, yeah, I'm not taking that home. So Kevin wound up taking it home. And Kevin is a hero. The whole thing about, I don't mind residentials because I like to be able to help people. A lot of times people won't let you help them because, like this man, he was very drawn to the activity that he was getting. He was, he missed it when it was gone, I think. And then when he realized that his whole world was going to come apart because of what was happening, then he was wanting us back to help him fix it permanently. And that's what we tried to do. But I just absolutely I'm looking at this file because I think this is from Sloss. I'm going to play this.
How many times do you get somebody like that coming to visit you on a Saturday with ways to be able to hear you and you're not talking to her?
Okay. This place was so funny because same house, second time. While we were there, I had forgotten this. But anyway, we were like, you know, we're here to do an investigation. We're here to talk to you. We're here to find out why you're back. We're here to find out, you know, and that is the history behind this because it was just wasn't talking to Frank. So
How many times do you get somebody like that coming to visit you on a Saturday with ways to be able to hear you and you're not talking to her?
And what's funny, that Yabol is on one of the Sloss recordings too, because it was so funny. I would not have given 10 cents on my odds of getting a German response or Polish response. It could flip either way. And I've had that happen in 2 different locations that I know of. May have happened in more, but I do know that it's happened in 2. And to me, that was just crazy, because I cannot fathom what that was like that created that. And this is actually, we were at a residential, and there's other EVPs from there. I didn't add them in here really, because I thought that these were going to take longer than they had. But this one instance, you're always asking, well, who am I talking to? What's your name? What are you doing? Pertinent things. And there were 3 women investigating this house. There was one woman, homeowner, and that's not true. One man was there with us. But we were there, we were investigating. This individual, the homeowner, had children, and we didn't know that there was a little girl, okay, that was in the house, a walking around size little girl. So the gentleman that was with us is a doll collector. So he's very open-minded. He's very great with his spirit dolls. He is a great person, great human. So we were doing the investigation, and I see him go incredibly still. I mean, just like froze. And I was watching him because I was worried, because I think, oh, something physical must be going on. And I realized he's looking down the hall. And I'm like, what? And he was like, is there a child here? Besides the baby that she had with her. Is there a child here? And I'm like, there's not supposed to be. And I looked over at the woman. She said, well, I put her down to go to bed. So the doll collector had a 2-year-old little girl coming out of her room and coming down the hallway. And it wasn't funny at the time, but the fact that he thought that a spirited doll could be the possible answer to this, or a baby ghost. And there are baby ghosts, don't get me wrong, but it was such an interesting moment. This house was really, it was an individual that was creating the haunting. I feel like it was a living individual that was creating the haunting. And so when we're asking who it is, this is what we got. Kimmy.
I heard that. Who's here? I heard that. Who's here?
But, it was just such a weird thing, because when we're asking, for a name, we get a man's name. And Kevin was the only man there. So that was fun. And you can tell that I'm not 110% right now. But I'm having a good time. Are you having a good time? Carl's having all the fun back there. But I've got this is another residential, and there's several files for this one. This was, this house was on a road that had a lot of accidents. And it was in the area where my sister lived. It was not where my nephew's accident was, but there were a lot of fatal accidents on this street. And it's a beautiful area. It's such a nice road, but there's a pretty good curve. And if you're not an experienced driver or you're in a hurry, things can happen because of the pitch and degrees and things of that nature. And I don't have these in any particular order. It's just really a cool bunch of stuff that we got. Let me see what this one is. Okay, I can't make that out with just one earbud. I usually have this in a program that I can pull them out better. So sorry about that. If you got it, let me know. But oh, that might have been starting this.
Are there any soldiers here?
Are there any drunk soldiers here? Say something.
And you just say that her father was an alcoholic.
Okay.
Is that one of the words that popped up was drunk? Mm-hmm. Is her father still living? Okay. Does anyone know? Is Lanier's father still living?
Are there any soldiers here?
Are there any drunk soldiers here? Say something.
And you just say that her father was an alcoholic.
Okay.
Is that one of the words that popped up was drunk? Mm-hmm. Is her father still living? Okay. Does anyone know?
Okay, there was an obulus going as well. There were, it's a spirit box and hearing. And they said drunk soldiers. So I did not think they said drunk. They did. But it was really interesting because that's one of those times that you kind of get more than you're anticipating. And that area, I think that there have been drunk accidents there, obviously. But I didn't know that we were going to get drunk soldiers. So that was a different kind of thing. Let's see.
Where do you feel the chills? On your arm?
As soon as she picked it up, it started going away.
Oh, okay.
But no, it was like my face had chills on my arms.
So pretty.
Thank you.
You know, she doesn't mind you giving her sensations. You just took her by surprise. And this thing right here, the orange thing that Kim picked up, that's not going to hurt you. It's just to let us see what the temperature is around Val.
You're more than welcome to come back over here.
We had a
as long as you
millimeter.
don't harm me.
Is there any difference on my left elbow? Other left.
Let's see. 4.
Other left.
81, 82. So yeah, there's like a 4 degree or 2 degree difference.
Between my elbows?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because something's holding my left elbow. That's wild.
I love that tool so you can see that.
Who's standing next to Kat?
We were using new equipment.
Who are you? Is it really? That's so cool. You. Are you Ed? Hey.
You said pew, maybe? Instead of you?
And see, Kim's looking at the temperature around me right now, and that's not hurting either one of us, right? So you don't have to be afraid of the equipment.
That was Kevin sighing.
Where do you feel the chills? On your arm?
As soon as she picked it up, it started going away.
Oh, okay.
But no, it was like my face had chills on my arms.
So pretty.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You know, she doesn't mind you giving her sensations. You just took her by surprise. And this thing right here, the orange thing that Kim picked up, that's not going to hurt you. It's just to let us see what the temperature is around Val.
You're more than welcome to come back over here as long as you don't harm me.
Is there any difference on my left elbow? Or the left?
Now, I don't know if y'all heard right there where when I said, is there any difference between the temperatures? And, yeah. But when I said, don't hurt me, I said, huh? So I just thought that was kind of neat.
What happened? That's weird.
Yes, it works.
But she said, that's kind of weird. It said it makes it worse, right?
That was bizarre.
Because it works.
It went totally quiet.
And I need a few things.
Like totally quiet. And the first thing it says when it came back was, it works. Like
Did you
this.
doubt us?
Worked, not worse.
I've never heard it do this.
Hit the board.
Happy and healthy.
We don't use boards.
For $9.
Everyone buy us.
So how
What happened? That's weird.
Yes, it works.
does it work?
That was bizarre.
Because it works.
It went totally quiet.
And I need a few things.
Like totally quiet. And the first thing it says when it came back was, it works.
And that was the most fun we've ever had with an EVP, right? So anyway, seriously, that whole house was so historic and so beautiful. And it's in a very nice area. And when we finished that investigation and brought the evidence back to them, they moved. And that was a family home that had been in that family for generations. So that was kind of a weird thing. So let's see. I think I played all 4 of those.
The couch was just sitting there yellow.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's going to drain our battery. K2 batteries. I'm going to turn mine off just to conserve it.
the couch was just sitting there yellow.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's going to drain our battery. K2 batteries. I'm going to turn mine off just to conserve it.
the couch was just sitting there yellow.
Mm-hmm.
So,
It's going to drain our battery. K2.
So that particular house had more activity, more surprises. The whole house had spirit through it, and they had just done the basement. The crawl space of the house was treated with the polyurethane stuff, and everything was pristine. It was such a gorgeous area. We got a lot of evidence down there, and I figured it was because it had been changed. And when we were actually in the house upstairs, that was where they were. We had all this equipment out. We had REM pods, we had recorders, we had K2s, we had everything that we had was through that house. And we wouldn't turn it on until we were in the room with it. And that was why it was so funny when the man said, "It worked." And I thought that was cool because he was excited because he could communicate, I think. That's what I took from it. But there was so much in this one location. And it was just a normal family of four, beautiful home, beautiful land, beautiful place. And they happened to be in an area where A, there had been Civil War activity, B, in front of their house were a lot of catastrophic accidents, and C, they did have family spirits there because it was an old family ancestral home, right? So everything combining together kind of like got them ready to go. And so they moved into a smaller place that was absolutely gorgeous and very suited to their family. And they just called it a day. It's the first time I've had a client move from their home because of the activity. And I think it just made them that nervous to know that there were actual spirits there. It's one thing, I think, for them, and a lot of people feel this way. It's one thing when you can like laugh about the family spirits, right? Or laugh about the ghost in the attic or whatever. And then when clients, especially these had pre-adolescent children, when parents see this as happening, they're not nearly as comfortable with it as they might have thought they would be. But these were the first clients I ever saw actually actively leave their home. And they were happily ever after. So, and I'm not sure which one this goes to. You hear that, Carol? Maybe. And I couldn't tell the second voice after mine. I mean, me, I'm Kat, who are you? And then the next voice, I'm not sure if he said, "I'm fine" or "I'm Frank," which would have been funny because I was probably investigating with Frank there. And then, "I'm David." And that's the most direct, no beating around the bush, no yin and yang, whatever. Just, this is who I am. I thought that was cool. I love when they want to, interact and converse and share their experiences, because a lot of times, and I won't usually do anything more than just prove that, for something like this, prove that somebody did reply, right? Because a lot of times, whatever we're getting is either for the family or for one of us if we're in a public venue. I have been in the old Paulding jail in Paulding, Ohio. That place, the first time I went there, I made them all mad. But ever since that one time, every time I go back, it's such a coming home to friends kind of thing. And I haven't been back for a few years now. My life kind of got busy, and I haven't been traveling as much, other than big trips once a year. But there's that, and I'm so excited when Spirit interacts with me, because a lot of times I'm in an environment where they don't know me. They're not my spirits. And when I get interaction, it's so exciting, because they're choosing to communicate. I think that's such a gift, and I think I have had a negative experience on an investigation, but it hasn't been one that made me stop. Like I said, when I was in Scotland, I got physically whacked. And there's an event coming up with May Herndon's group, who are going to Scotland, and they're going to be investigating with the Scottish Paranormal guys. Ryan O'Neill is going to be the lead talent. I'm sure that Gregor and hopefully Lee and Kyle, more than just Ryan, will be participating with this, I'm sure. And I know that Gregor is going to be doing a tour of St. Andrews, which is his forte. And he has given me his tour 3 times now, and it's never boring. He knows everything about St. Andrews. He's an author. He writes, Haunted History of Scotland, and he's brilliant. He is, Ryan, of course, Haunted Scotland, Haunted Ireland, and Gregor's been on those shows with him. But Lee may have been too, I'm not positive. But it's really so much fun. I know that I'm not sure when that tour is, but you can find it online. And it's May Hernon, MaiHernon, and she'll have her business information up there too. But it's really, that's going to be a good tour. They're going to go through, I'm going to put this on because dry lips and my drink didn't make it in here. But not anybody's fault but mine. I just didn't bring it. But they're going to do St. Andrews. They're going to go back to Culloden. And if you are somebody that is into the histories of the Jacobean War, the uprising as it's called, the massacre is what it was at Culloden. I got to participate in that. But there's just so much. They're going to be going into Stirling. Y'all seen my pictures of the jail there. And the castle is amazing. It's yellow or golden, because that was the color of influence, because people didn't paint their stuff then. And it's so much fun to go and do these things. I saw some of the people talking about the different battlefields, and they're actually, I want to say a 7-day tour, and they're flying out of Glasgow, which is unusual. Most people go through Edinburgh, but I think that's where they're closing. And the University of Glasgow is where a lot of the exteriors of Harry Potter were filmed. So that would be something to see. And May, you owe me. I'm just kidding. But seriously, if you got to investigate with Haunted Scotland, then, there is not much better. And they probably are the best, no lie, hands down, paranormal research team globally that I know of, because they bring such a diverse array of talents to their work. And, you know, they're tech guys. We are not talking mediumship here, although they have several mediums and psychics on their team. It's a huge group of people when they all get together. But the primaries are, you know, who I usually am out with. I was lucky enough to get to do a group event at Sterling Castle, the old Sterling jail, when I was there last year. Rick and Lori and I got to do that. And they are so unique and so special. And as a group, they're absolutely wonderful. If you're in Scotland and you come across them and they're having a public event, go to it. It's the best. And, you know, they bring so much to the table. I've had Lee Dunn on my show, and I've had a reading by Lee Dunn. And I don't do readings with very many people because I'm very protective of my energy and my space. But I trust him. I've investigated with him. We have been at, you know, Temple in Scotland, which was the original Templars temple. And I've gotten to spend not nearly enough time with all of these guys, but if you get a chance to, you should grab it and growl. It's so much fun with them. And, you know, the shows are good too, but there's a location that has been closed that we couldn't get into when we were there last year that's going to be included on this tour. And I know that some of my friends, Gina, have already been talking this up with their friends about going. And, you know, they don't know how special it is that they're going to get to go to Torway Castle. So that, to me, would be the selling point for this tour. And they're excited about the battlefields. So there's that. But, you know, it's going to be so special. And I think that one of my favorite things about my travels is all the people I get to meet. And doing my show, I've got Raymond Treeblood in here in the chat, and he's going to be coming on with me soon. He's actually very interesting. I think you're going to enjoy him so much. It's such a gift to be able to meet people like this. And then I've got Carl, who is right back there behind me. And he is one of the better investigators that I know of. He's very into the experience. He's very interested in what's around him. And I have not investigated with him, but I know friends who have, and they love him. And I love him because he saves my bacon all the time. So he really does. And he's a good human and a good investigator. So that's a good combination. But yeah, I'm going to take a look right quick because I was downloading like crazy. And I wanted to go back because I thought I had a couple of more things here that I wanted to share with you. So I'm going to just take a quick peek. And oh my goodness. No glasses. Okay. I am going to add a couple of these. So, you know, one of the things that I have the most time for is getting to have the opportunity to listen to spirits. You know, we all do it. We're all interested. We're all having a good time while we're doing it. But to actually have spirits interested in talking to me or for you, you know, I just think that there's so much that they could be doing other than talking to us, that it's a real gift. when we get that, because it's just, man, when they decide that we're worthy of communication, when they have so many people who are not user friendly, people that come and get scared, or people that come and try to get them, take them away from where they are, take them away from what they know, or banish them. Banishing is not necessarily a great thing, I don't think, because we don't know where we're banishing them to. And I think that's one of the things that we just don't know. And I think that's why I get bent out of shape when people are like, oh, they're demons, or we have to bind them. And I've been in a case where I did have to bind something, and that was trippy. And I didn't really know what it was, but I was told that I needed to do that. And so I didn't know how to do it. I had never done that. And there I was doing it. And I actually felt like I was in such a bind from it, myself, because I couldn't get the gist of what this was that wasn't really going away, although people had tried to move it. And I am by no means really the be all and the end all binding things. So I was nervous. I really was nervous. And it worked out, I think. But, when I tried to bind it, I had no idea what I was doing. I got direction from one of my co-investigators who had all gone off and left me there. It was really interesting. But never go off and leave an investigator still at a house by themselves with the owners. Just saying. But I don't go investigating by myself at someone's house. I won't go into a home environment. I won't go anywhere with anyone doing paranormal or wanting paranormal things alone. I'm a chick. I am very cautious about that. And, you don't want to be a statistic. So when that was my first time investigating with that team. And so, they got in the car and they left. I was trying to leave. And the homeowner came running out the door, and he was upset with me because what had been creating a problem in the house was back in the house after he had watched it drive off in a garbage truck. And I totally believe him because he was hysterical almost. And I was just kind of like, I don't know why that's there. And he put it in my car. He said, you were taking it with you. And so I was just like, I don't think I am, sir. And so he wouldn't take it back. And I had a cell phone, but I was in a no zone, and I'm calling and I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. I'm not taking it home, but I don't know what to do with this because he's put it in my car. Is whatever was attached to it, does it have to stay attached, right? And so one of the people were like, well, you just need to bind the spirit to that item and then throw that item into water. I'm in my car. I don't know how to do a binding spell. And because like I said, this was my first time investigating with the team ever. So it was just like, oh my. So I did what was instructed. I found a body of water. I am so anti-litter. I do not litter. I'm not a litter bug. I had that beat in my head. The Indian cried, everything. So I'm on the side of the road with this toy with this spirit bound to it. And the person giving me directions said, now throw it over into the water. It's like, nope, can't do that. And they were like, well, it's either that or you take it home with you. But binding it and throwing it in the water would help it find its way to a peaceful resolution, ostensibly. So I chucked that baby out the window into the creek, river. And as I'm pulling away, there's this dude that wasn't there walking back toward me, like walking back toward where it came from. And he was not there because, trust me, Miss Anti-Litter, I'm looking around. I don't want people to see me littering, right? Because we don't do that. And there wasn't anybody around. And I had gone down, turned around, and come back to where I was going to throw this thing out. And if you've heard this story before, I apologize, but it is the God's own truth, because the dude was in, Black Panther jeans with a red plaid jacket, cap pulled down over his head. He was not there when I drove down that, turned around and came back on the other side of that median and turned around to come back and throw that back. I mean, seriously. So was that the spirit that was attached to that item going back where he came from? I don't know. But I do know, I will always believe that was definitely a spirit. And I do think that was the spirit that was, so I didn't slow down. I was so concerned because I thought, what if I have completely screwed this up? And this guy's going to be wandering around not knowing where he is for the rest of eternity. So, listen to people that tell you stuff, but do your own thinking. And I did. I mean, I couldn't take it home. I didn't want to just leave it for somebody else to get. So there's that. Man, that was trippy. And if you have ever had an experience with a binding like that, I would love to know about it. I really would love to know about it. Because I just can't imagine anybody else having quite that problem. And I've got this one that I think I've played it again already. Carl, did I play Heard Anything? I did? Okay. Well, then we're not going to worry about that. But anyway, I'm really excited because I'm going to be out of the country. I'm leaving the 31st and I'm coming back the 7th. So that's going to be 2 weeks. I'm going to try to line up a guest host, and that will be a surprise because he doesn't know he's getting asked yet. But I think that you're going to be happy with how that works out. And I've never been where I'm going, so I'm pretty excited about that. And there's some ruins that I hope to come across that I'm looking forward to. And it's really funny because I'm going to a Parrot Head event, music event, and with a lot of trap music musicians, trap rock artists, and a bunch of friends. So I'm going to be out of the country again. And another friend who actually moved there, they bought They got out of the country and are very happy that they did. They worked to get everything going. They had a farm. She went to nursing school, got everything set up to be able to be like the village nurse where they moved to. They bought a business and moved out of the country because he was uncomfortable with what he was hearing. He worked for the government and he didn't want to be here anymore. So they live in paradise with their family. They have raised their youngest, who is absolutely a brilliant young woman, and all of their kids are great. And so I'm going to get to see them for the first time since they moved away from the country. That's going to be cool. And, you know, I've never been where I'm going. I'm going to South America and, or the continent. So I'm really looking forward to it. And trust me when I say if my husband was watching those travel warnings, I was too. But, you know, he was nervous with me going to Scotland. So he's a very protective husband. And I'm glad because we all need that, right? And I do not know, I do not know what I'm going to do for the second week. I may be home in time to do my show. We'll have to see, you know, if I'm flying American, not Delta. I've never, not since I worked corporately, did I fly anybody but Delta. So, well, Southwest. I did Southwest. I won so many points because they were having a Macarena contest. I got points. So we're killing time waiting in Las Vegas because we always fly Las Vegas because David likes that, you know, Southwest to Vegas. But it was fun. But I am so excited. I hope y'all have fun too, because we had snow at our beach today. And Carl and I were talking about Denise, this, you know, pre-show. Denise Pridemore is one of my dear friends. She is one of the nicest women on the planet. But she moved down to the beach without me. Can you believe that? So I don't blame her. She lived up in the snow areas. So she went where she got more snow today. But it's fun because it doesn't last there. And she can look out at the white sand and have pretend snow all she wants to. But, you know, we were laughing because last year when it snowed down there, it was a lot of snow. And I got down there. I drove down from Birmingham. And I had, what was it, Carl, 4 inches on my deck when I got to the top of the stairs. And I was so, I don't know what to do with that. I did not know what to do with that. I'm sitting there going, this is going to ruin my deck planks. Oh my gosh. So I got a broom picker-upper, you know, the dustpan, and I scooped, you know, I just kind of ran it down to the edges so that I wouldn't have to be stomping through, you know, ice the next day. And that thing broke my dustpan. That stuff is heavy. I guess Carl knows that, but I didn't know that. So I went through 2 dustpan pans because I had 2 in there, and it still didn't get all of it. I just got a path to get to the stairs, which I also had to do. And I thought, there is something wrong with me coming to the beach and having to shovel snow. I do not know what to say about this. So Denise was pretty excited, and they weren't going to get a whole lot, I don't think. I know that my cousin up about halfway between here and there was moving snow today. So it's crazy, man. Crazy. Global warming. Where is it? We need some. We are cold here. And one of my friends says, well, this is global warming. I was like, I don't think so. I'm not a denier. Don't get all twisted up. But, you know, me being in the teens is not a normal thing. And my summers are just about the way they're supposed to be. But the winters are what are different. So I don't know what to say about that. But Raymond, do you have any questions in there? No, he will. He is so excited to be coming on, and I'm excited to have him. And if you don't know who he is, I suggest you find him on Facebook because he is so fun. He is one of those people that you just don't know what he's going to say next. He puts out would you call that a newsletter, Carl? Carl. Raymond? Because I'm not sure how I would classify that. I think it would be. It's an information sheet. And it's something that is very different for me. I'm learning as I go with him. And I love that. I love learning because sometimes you don't know how much you didn't know till you start reading and listening to other people. I think that's one of my favorite things about doing this radio program. You know, I've done paranormal experience for, I guess, going into my 11th year now, or finishing my 11th year, one of the two. And Denise could tell you, Denise knows every day for everything any of us have ever done. She's so good at that. I am so bad at that. I blame it on the ADHD. But, you know, it really is interesting because since I've done paranormal experience forever, I've done Fate for going into my 6th year. And the things that I learned, Fate magazine has been in publication since 1947. And the first the first edition was on UFOs. Since then, everything has been covered. It's so interesting. I mean, well, I'll put those back up. Probably should have done that. So, this is oh my gosh. If you run into Rick McCollum, you need to ask him about Leap Castle. But this is The Curse of Leap Castle, and then Rip Van Winkle, Alien Abductions. And I just think that is so much fun. Sure do wish I could see this stuff. Right? But The Curse of Leap Castle was written by June Gosler Anderson. Simon and the Skull Seances. Now, that was written by Robert Schock, PhD, who is no longer with us. But, you know, when I started hearing about the skull experiments and things of that nature, I didn't know what to expect. And I'm going to tell you, go research that because some of that is so bizarre. And it's just worth looking into, truly. And Micah Hanks, y'all know who Micah Hanks is? If not, you should, because this is him. And he is such a good author. He has written a great series of books. He is one of the most eclectic people I know. He is fun to read. He is fun to listen to. I've hosted him a time or two. I should do that again. I love him to pieces. He is such a good guest. He's such a knowledgeable human. So we'll see about getting Micah back for you too. But it is one of my joys to see friends in Fate magazine. You know, I never know. I never know when I am. And I do want to talk about something. I want to talk about Eric von Daniken, because, you know, he passed away. And one of the things that really, one of the best things that has come out of me doing radio or podcasting is that I get to see, listen, and learn from some of the best people in the world. Eric von Daniken is, I don't want to say by far my favorite, but he is my favorite. I got to see him 3 times in one summer. And he was wicked and charming and intelligent and such a good sharer of experiences. He was somebody that his work ethic to be 17 was amazing. He was 17 years old. He had grown up in this little town of Switzerland, which is also where Giorgio Tsoukalos grew up. That's where that connection came from. But when Eric was young and in school, he found out through one of his educators, one of the priests, turned him on to the library, and he found the Book of Enoch and shared it. They had a copy of the Book of Enoch in that library, and he turned Eric onto that. So Eric is learning all these things and seeing, understanding and grasping it. So when he turns 17, he starts working as a waiter. He works long enough to get travel money. And he goes, did he start in Caracas? I think he did. But he would go and adventure. And then he would come back when he ran out of money and work until he had enough money for his next escapade. And he went to Egypt. He was in the base of the Great Pyramid. He is who I learned about there being a table, which is kind of a bath, in the base of the pyramid that you can empty it out, and by the next morning it's full again with fresh water. And that is because the Nile did not always run where it is now. Yeah, nobody moved the pyramids, the river moved, because the Mississippi moves all the time, right? That's not unusual. But when he was talking about this, I was just like, you did not. That is so cool. And, it was just, that wasn't my favorite story, but it was one of them. And they went to the Queen's Pyramid, and there was a draft. They were trying to figure out how to get in and what was in there and everything. It was the coolest story. So then, oh my word, he went to Paracas. He saw the Nazca lines from the air when airplanes were new, pretty much, relatively new. And yeah, he saw the Nazca lines intact. He had pictures. I mean, he went to, where was that? He went everywhere. He went everywhere. I mean, he went to Tetuan, where the H blocks are. I mean, he was, of course, now he knows everything that he didn't already know. Or that's my belief. I think that when we die, we get the answers to all of our questions. Or we get to go find them for ourselves, which I would be okay with too. But, to be able to sit and listen to this man talk about all this stuff, I could sit at his knee for years just listening, because he would never run out of experiences, right? So I think that I was so well gifted to be able to spend time listening to him. And I'm so thankful I had that opportunity. And I do know that a lot of my friends are missing him very much. And I'm just so glad that through his writing, through the insight of Kevin Burns, who was the producer of Ancient Aliens, creator of Ancient Aliens. I think that it's pretty cool. And, I was only doing paranormal experience for a couple of years when I applied for credentials to the very first Alien Con, which is the Ancient Aliens Convention. And I got approved. I was a nobody. and they brought me in. And I was stunned. And I found the executive producer, Susan, and I said, thank you so much for letting me be here. This matters to me so much. And she was like, well, you're welcome. We're just glad you're here. We like what you do. They knew what I did. I mean, really? So then I got to sit down and spend some time with Kevin Burns. And one-on-one, face-to-face, just chilling at a table. And I'm so glad I got that chance because he's passed now. And, you know, he, Eric, other people who I know have gone on, they have the answers. I firmly believe that we get the answers to the things that bother us so when we cross. And I'm so, how blessed am I, right? I mean, I have gotten to spend time, I've gotten to break bread with all these people. You know, I became friends with a gentleman named Mark D'Antonio, who is probably the best astronomer I know. And he is actually going to be at Eureka Springs if you want to go this year, because it's the Eureka Springs UFO conference. That's where I actually met him. I went because my friend Chase Klotsky was speaking that year. It's the first time. And I was credentialed for there, and there's no way I was missing Chase. So I went, and that's where I got to meet friends. Oh my gosh. I'm so lucky. But Mark D'Antonio is cool. You would like him. And he's on Ancient Aliens a lot too. So keep your eyes peeled for him. But we are out of time, and I can't believe it's gone this fast. I hope you enjoyed some of this evidence that I was sharing with you. I find it fascinating. Anytime a spirit shares with me, I am so appreciative because I have such curiosity. It's why I do the things that I do. And I know that you do too. So be blessed. Thank you so much for being here. And, you know, this was a little scattered. It's a lot of information, but I hope you enjoyed it. And take care. And I'll see you Wednesday. Same cat time, same cat channel. Good night.